I have felt different kinds of emotion in this past few weeks, especially because of the fact that there's just been a lot of stories about Nigerian Christians being persecuted and killed at a very high rate. And in this our algorithm driven world of news, once you click on something that talks about a particular topic, if you're not careful, that's the only thing you ever get to see online. There's been a lot of narrative flying around about the whole situation. Some people say it's a political distraction. Some say that it's a good thing that such a news has come to light and is taking center stage. It's not good news, but at the same time, it could cause us to take actions to alleviate the situation. Um, I've heard stories. I just finished reading about a Fulani ex-Muslim who became a pastor and has faced a lot of persecution from radical Muslims. It's not every Nigerian Christian that is afraid for their lives because they're Christians. At least I'm an example of one. I live in a part of Nigeria where hardly would you hear about a Christian being killed for being a Christian. And that's what makes this whole thing jarring for me. I'm seeing videos of massacres. I'm seeing Christians, Nigerian Christians that live in the north where this happens a lot, where this thing is concentrated. I'm seeing videos of them being buried. I'm thinking about what's going through their mind, and I'm just like, what is the right response to this? And I'm sure that there are several right responses, but one of the effective ones is to pray and send comfort and send help. And so if you know about any organization that helps Christians in the north of Nigeria with reliefs and things like that, do something, send money. If that's not something you can do, you can pray. Um, I'm going to take them even more seriously. Another thing that I'm also thinking about is how that I know that God can use this persecution as a means to help other people that might not know much about Him, to hear about Him, to hear about the gospel. Many times in scripture, persecution drove the gospel further and farther, right? So the apostles were persecuted in Jerusalem. They got to travel to other places, and those people got to hear about Jesus. Um, Interestingly, I have this book of history about the Yoruba people that says that there's a possibility that our ancestors came to Africa because they were persecuted in Mecca for being Coptic Christians. And somehow in our history, some of the stories, like the stories of the creation and things like that, you find similarities between them and the Bible. So that's a good thing that I would say persecution did. But then I can talk about that because I am not the one who is being persecuted. If I was in the shoes of the one being persecuted, I would like to assume that I live in fear of my life. I would like to assume that I would be wondering if being a believer is worth it, considering the fact that it makes me liable to be killed. And hopefully, I would be thinking about the fact that to live is Christ and to die is gain. So I think that they need all the strength that they can get. And if you live in a part of Nigeria that is not prone to these things, then you have a responsibility to put yourself in the shoes of those who don't live in that kind of, serenity. um I know that scripture talks about us putting ourselves in the shoes of the persecuted and praying for them as though we were in chains as they were. So that's something that I want to practice more. That's something that I want to do more of. Um, Not just as a one-off thing, but as a daily thing, and most importantly, to make use of the peace that God has given me to push the gospel further in everything that I do. Anyways, I know that like every other story, this might die down and we will get concerned about other things. But I do hope that we always remember the people who are persecuted and put ourselves in their shoes and pray for deliverance from God and do all that we can politically, economically to ensure that they do not give up their trust in God, but instead they are strengthened further by the Spirit in the inner man, and they keep professing the faith that puts them in danger because it is worth it. It is worth it to be a child of God. It is worth it to put your trust in Jesus, and perhaps that is why we attract so much censure and negativity and persecution. My prayer is that the truth of the gospel will prevail, and everyone, even the ones that are not Christians, that but are not radical Muslims, and are victims of these things, that everyone will come to know God as it truly is, and will not think that they are in a place to take lives, to take a life that they have not created. God help us all.